Peddling falsehoods. Desperate Starmer launches a furious attack on Nigel Farage during a GB News interview, accusing the Reform UK leader of peddling falsehoods and making promises that don't come to fruition. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife, because Starmer, the man whose government has broken virtually every promise made to voters, is now lecturing the most trusted politician on the economy about telling the truth. Speaking to GB News, Starmer declared, "My message would be that Nigel Farage says a lot of things that aren't true and don't come to fruition. He stood in front of your viewers in the Brexit referendum and said, if we leave the EU, migration will come down. Well, it didn't come down. It quadrupled under the Boris Johnson wave. He said if we leave the EU, you'd have £350 million a week for the NHS. That didn't turn out to be the case." This attack comes as Starmer's approval rating sits at a catastrophic -61%, the worst ever recorded for a British Prime Minister, while Labour trails Reform UK by nearly 10 points in national polls. With local and devolved elections just 4 months away, representing what insiders call his moment of maximum jeopardy, Starmer is lashing out at the man who's eating his lunch politically. But here's the problem. Starmer's accusations against Farage expose his own mountain of broken promises and outright lies. This isn't just hypocrisy, it's projection on a nuclear scale. Let's expose every single lie Starmer told while accusing Farage of dishonesty. The attack. Starmer goes all in on Farage. Starmer's GB News interview represents a dramatic escalation in his war against Farage. He's not just criticizing Reform UK's policies, he's calling Farage a liar, questioning his patriotism, and warning that ousting Starmer as Labour leader would gift Nigel Farage power. Starmer told the BBC that removing him in 2026 would plunge Britain into utter chaos and open the door to a far-right government, saying any repeat of Conservative instability would gift Nigel Farage. In his Labour conference speech months earlier, Starmer claimed Farage doesn't like Britain and doesn't believe in Britain, and accused him of resorting to grievance because he has nothing positive to say. This is classic projection. Starmer, whose government is mired in scandal after scandal, whose ministers break laws with impunity, whose approval ratings are in the toilet, is accusing Farage, the man leading in every poll, of being negative and divisive. The strategy is transparent. Starmer hopes to make the next election a choice between chaos under Reform versus stability under Labour. But voters aren't buying it. They've had 18 months of Labour stability, and they're absolutely miserable. The Brexit accusations. Let's check Starmer's own record. On migration, Starmer correctly notes that migration increased after Brexit under Boris Johnson. But here's what he conveniently ignores. He promised to control borders too. Labour's 2024 manifesto pledged to smash the gangs bringing migrants across the Channel in small boats. How's that going? In 2024, over 36,000 people crossed the Channel in small boats. Asylum hotels, which Starmer promised to close, remain open, nearly 200 of them. When pressed on GB News about when asylum hotels would close, Migration Minister Mike Tapp could only say they've halved from the peak of 400, but couldn't give a specific timeline. Starmer attacked the Conservatives relentlessly over migration failures. Now he's in power, migration remains high, small boats keep coming, and asylum hotels stay open. He's broken the exact same promises he's accusing Farage of breaking. On the NHS, Starmer mocked the Brexit campaign's $350 million a week for the NHS claim. Fair enough, that was always misleading. But what about Starmer's own NHS promises? Labour promised the NHS would be back on its feet and waiting times would fall. Instead, NHS strikes continue. In Scotland, junior doctors are walking out for 4 days starting January 13th. The health service remains in crisis. Cancer patients wait months for treatment. A&E departments are overwhelmed. Starmer has no more delivered NHS improvements than the Brexit campaign delivered $350 million weekly. Glass houses, stones, etc. The Brexit betrayal. Starmer prepares to break his biggest promise. Here's where Starmer's attack on Farage becomes truly hypocritical. Starmer said he will pursue greater access to the European single market, stating, "If it's in our national interest to have even closer alignment with the single market, then we should consider that. We should go that far." This represents Starmer's strongest language yet on softening Brexit, and it contradicts Labour's 2024 manifesto, which explicitly promised not to rejoin the single market or customs union. Farage has argued such a pivot is breaking faith with his manifesto pledges on the EU. He's absolutely right. Labour's manifesto said clearly, no single market, no customs union. Now, Starmer is openly pursuing greater access to the single market and hinting at sector-by-sector alignment. Conservative Party chairman said, in a desperate bid to appease his backbenchers, Keir Starmer is pursuing alignment with the single market, surrendering our freedom to cut regulation and strike our own trade deals. Only the Conservatives will hold Labour accountable for trying to undo the democratic decision of the British people. Even worse, the government last month announced it would rejoin the EU's Erasmus student exchange scheme, costing around £570 million for 1 year of membership. The UK left Erasmus under Boris Johnson, who argued it didn't offer value for money. Labour promised fiscal responsibility. Now they're spending $570 million on a scheme the previous government deemed too expensive. So let's recap. Starmer attacks Farage for Brexit promises that didn't materialize, while simultaneously breaking his own Brexit promises by pursuing single market alignment and rejoining EU programs he said he wouldn't. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. The falsehood Starmer is peddling, a comprehensive list. Since Starmer wants to talk about politicians who say a lot of things that aren't true, let's examine his record of broken promises and outright lies. Number 1. We won't raise taxes on working people. Labour's manifesto promised not to raise income tax, national insurance, or VAT, but Chancellor Rachel Reeves has frozen tax thresholds, a stealth tax increase, is considering capital gains tax rises, and hiking employer national insurance contributions, which will ultimately come from workers' wages or result in less jobs. Number 2, we'll close asylum hotels. Still open, nearly 200 of them. No firm timeline for closure. Number 3, we won't rejoin the single market or customs union. Now actively pursuing closer alignment with the single market and hinting at sector-by-sector deals that would bind the UK to European regulations without any say in making them. Number 4, we'll restore integrity to government. His government has suffered more scandal-related resignations in 18 months than most governments experience in 5 years. Sue Gray, Louise Haig, Tulip Siddiq, Andrew Gwynn, Rushana Ali, and Angela Rayner. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves broke housing law and kept her job. Number 5, we'll grow the economy. Growth remains stagnant. The economy has flatlined. Business confidence is weak. Investment is sluggish. Number 6, we'll fix the NHS. Strikes continue, waiting lists remain high, the crisis is ongoing. Number 7, we won't cut winter fuel payments. Cut them immediately after taking office, forcing elderly pensioners to choose between heating and eating. Number 8, we'll support farmers. Imposed inheritance tax on farms worth over $1 million, threatening family farms across Britain. Every single one of these represents a broken promise or outright lie, and this is the man lecturing Nigel Farage about peddling falsehoods. The polling reality. Voters trust Farage, not Starmer. Here's the most damning evidence against Starmer's attack. A new Merlin strategy poll suggested Farage is the most trusted to run the economy. Read that again. Voters trust Farage, not the sitting Prime Minister, not the Chancellor who was an economist at the Bank of England, to run Britain's economy. That's an absolute humiliation for Starmer. The latest polling shows Reform UK at 27 to 31% depending on the survey, with Labour at 18.5 to 19%. More in Commons' MRP poll revealed Reform UK would win 381 seats, with its support surging to 31%, while Labour would slump to just 85 seats, a loss of 326 seats. If an election were held today, Nigel Farage would be Prime Minister with a comfortable majority. Starmer would be obliterated, and he's calling Farage the one who peddles falsehoods that don't come to fruition. Farage hasn't taken Starmer's attacks lying down. When Starmer previously attacked him at the Labour conference, Farage told GB News, "What I heard was an entire Labour conference totally